You want to franchise your business, or maybe you've already franchised. But how do you know if you're doing it right? What are the signposts, signals, and indicators to know you're on the right track? And most important, what are winning strategies to help you go from successful business owner to thriving franchisor? Strategy number one, beginning with the end in mind. You're franchising your business. And so right now it's important to understand what the goals are and what success looks like. 5 years from now, as you grow a successful franchise system, what does success look like? Are your agreements enforceable? Was your FDD prepared properly? Have you complied with the franchise laws? Have you built out a compelling brand story, sold franchises to qualified franchisees, and have built a thriving and growing network? So beginning with the end in mind is critical, especially as you enter an entirely new industry, which is the franchise world, right? You don't know what you don't know, like all of us when we enter a new industry. And so you need to rely on partners you could trust, partners who are there for your long-term success, and partners that understand the strategy to help you win. So we're going to discuss foundational elements here, checkmark items that you need to be aware of as you go through the franchising process, signposts that'll help indicate for you that you're doing it the right way. And hopefully, as we have this conversation, mindset factors that you need to be aware of, and even experiences you need to avoid. So 5 years from now, what does your franchise system look like? If you're sitting down with a private equity group and they look at your franchise agreements and they look at your entire structure, will they say you did it the right way? Well, we're going to get into the basics. Let's talk about the FDD, which is your legal structure, your trademarks, your corporate structure, even your franchise brand story, your operations manual, and a 5-year vision for winning. Your franchise agreement, your FDD, that's your entire legal infrastructure. Imagine as a franchisor, one of your primary goals is to recruit qualified franchisees, onboard them, make them a part of your franchise system. The value for you as a franchisor is now this franchisee represents your brand. They're going to comply with your brand standards, the obligations you set. They're going to agree not to compete with you. And then long term, say over a 10-year period, they're going to pay you royalties. So the entire value of what you're creating sits on a legal platform, your franchise agreement, your FDD, and the enforceability of that foundation is critical to your franchise system. When we speak and work with private equity teams that are investing in franchisors, their number one focus is the legal enforceability of the franchise agreements. And not only the enforceability, but how the franchise agreements were structured, and if they provide the right protections, not only protect the brand, but allow for future growth and possibly allow expansion into different markets or different type of business opportunities. So your FDD, your franchise agreements, they're the entire legal infrastructure that your whole franchise system is built on. It needs to be durable. It needs to be protectable. It needs to be prepared by an experienced franchise attorney and team. So the FDD, your franchise agreements, your legal foundation, needs to comply with federal and state franchise laws, needs to reflect best practices, contract law, franchise law, litigation strategy, litigation avoidance strategy, protection of your trademarks, and needs to have the right carve-outs and protections to allow your franchise system to expand and adapt over time, whether it's integrating new technologies, whether it's expanding into captive markets or non-traditional locations. There's so many elements that go into the legal structure of your FDD and your franchise agreement. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't plan ahead, or their legal structure not only not protectable, but doesn't allow flexibility for growth of a franchise system. How do we know it works? Well, we work with over 200 franchisors. We sit down at these private equity deals. We see what everyone is focused on. We see the growing pains that franchise brands go through and how legal protections and legal structures can alleviate those pain points, reduce friction, and legally protect a franchise system as it grows. You're selling franchises, you're growing. What you don't want are legal setbacks happening in years 3, 4, and 5. They take you off track, they cost money, and they could damage a franchise system. So your FDD, your legal structure, it's a critical element to what you're building. Signposts that you should be looking out for, you need to be working with your franchise lawyer. They need to be experienced in working with franchise brands. They need to have a direct agreement with you. There's franchise development companies out there. Not only is this illegal, but it's unethical. They try to package franchising services as if they perform everything. Legal, accounting, operations manual. What they're doing is repackaging and selling legal services that they outsource to another firm, or they claim to be their in-house counsel. And why is this bad? Well, number one, you need your attorney to be accountable to you. 5 years from now, if you have a legal issue, are you calling the franchise development company? And if you do, what's their answer? They're going to be like, we're not your lawyer. And then if you call their lawyer, well, their position is going to be they didn't represent you directly. Plus, there's conflicts of interest, right? So you need to work with a legal team that's directly accountable to you. As we go through the legal process, not only do you need a legal team that can protect you legally, but also that knows franchise development best practices. Meaning, what is the right franchise structure, the right initial franchise fee, multi-unit opportunities, royalty structures, territory structures, your item 19 financial performance representations. What will brokers recognize as best practices, and what will competitively position your franchise brand? We work with many franchisors, and our focus is not only on legal, but franchise development best practices, right? The strongest legal protection, if it doesn't work economically or in the marketplace, it's not as valuable. So we combine both. And that's what you should be expecting in your attorney relationships. And by all accounts, do not outsource or allow any franchise development company to claim they handle your legal. Because what's happening is you have a non-lawyer copying and pasting documents that they don't truly understand. And what's worse is you won't know if there's a mistake or a problem until it's too late, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Next are your trademarks, and trademarks are critical to franchising. When you sell a franchise, the most important right you're granting to your franchisee is a license to use the trademark, to identify the business, to operate the business. Your trademarks need to be protected. Ultimately, your trademarks need to be registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. They need to be registered on the principal register. The registrations need to include your word mark and your logo mark. Here too, we see issues. We have clients come to us years later and say, hey, Charles, I was told by a franchise development company that I had a legally protected trademark. What we find out is that the trademark application was either abandoned or wasn't the right type of registration. Your trademarks are critical to the franchising process, need to be registered. And as part of the process, you should be discussing with your attorneys corporate structures. For example, we may be discussing setting up a completely separate corporate structure, an intellectual property or an IP holding company that's going to own your trademarks and then issue a license to use the trademarks to your franchise company. Why do we do it? Well, it's for protection. And we prepare a bunch of intercompany licenses where your IP company grants a license to your franchise company to use your trademark. There's a number of advantages in doing this, and that should be part of the conversation and discussion. Next, your corporate structure. This is shocking to me sometimes. We'll work or start working with a large franchise brand and find out that at the very beginning, whoever helped them with the franchising process didn't set up a separate franchising company, or if they did, it wasn't done the right way. When you franchise your business, you're going to be creating a completely new franchising company, whether it's an LLC or a corporation, something we're going to discuss with your accounting team. This new franchise company is going to sell franchises, support franchisees, receive royalties, and grow a franchise system. It's a brand new organization. So we coordinate that with your accounting team. We're going to be setting up your new franchising company. We're going to set up the licenses and rights between your trademarks and your existing business. Your franchise brand story. So a mistake that startup franchisors make time and again, and I think it's because they don't get the right advice, or they're going to these one-stop shops that treat everyone as a cookie cutter franchise, is they don't build a compelling franchise brand story. Why you, why now? So why a franchisee should buy your franchise, the unique advantages that you offer, the transformation that you offer to your franchisees, and how that's portrayed on your website, how you tell your own story, and how you build on this story over time. And if you get an opportunity, we've built a great community called FranX. If you go to Facebook, you could look for the Franchise Growth Mastermind community. We do weekly live streams. And you could go to the website, franxxlaunchcom. Join our community. We do weekly live streams. We have master classes on building your franchise brand story. Don't just rely on these outside vendors. What they're doing is they're creating cookie cutter websites, cookie cutter franchise sales materials that are off the mark. You're a startup franchisor, you're an emerging franchisor, you're competing in a competitive landscape, you have limited resources. So why do you want to sound like everyone else? Spend the time, build a compelling franchise brand story. Why you, why now, unique advantages you offer, transformation your franchisees will experience when they sign on with you and become a franchisee. Videos that tell your founder story. Videos that show celebrations when your franchisees open. And just know this is a story you're going to keep building over time. It's a mistake so many startup brands make. Operations manual. Your operations manual is your how-to guide for your franchisees. It's the place where you're going to organize how you train your franchisees, your training schedule, startup requirements, developing the franchise location, operations, technology. And operations manuals can feel overwhelming. And there's companies out there that can do a great job preparing operations manuals. And there's companies that do horrible work. They just copy and paste. I saw one restaurant franchise in the marketing section of the operations manual talked about how handing out business cards is how you build business for a restaurant, right? So you need to be cautious with your operations manual. What do you need to know? Number one, it's your how-to guide. Two, in the past, it was in writing. It was a big giant book. Today, there's different media, videos, online modules. You're going to be building out your operations manual, and your primary goal should be to educate and inform your franchisees. Next, you should know is that operations manuals evolve over time. Now, when we prepare your franchise offering and issue your franchise program and you become a franchisor, publicly, the only thing that's disclosed is a table of contents to your operations manual. And the reason for this is that the operations manual is a confidential document. You only provide it to your franchisees after they sign a franchise agreement. What I suggest is you be actively involved in preparing your manual. And also understand what your operations manual looks like today. It's going to be different 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months from now. It's going to keep improving as you onboard franchisees and have different experiences. Our team helps with developing operations manuals, but just know it's better for you to dive into your operations manual and work on it than just hire a company that's going to package it and just copy and paste someone else's manual. So your operations manual, it's your how-to guide. It's going to evolve over time and should be getting better. With the goal of beginning with the end in mind, next is the vision, your 5-year vision, your expectations, what you should expect from today, successful business owner, to becoming a franchisor. So to start, the process takes 90 to 120 days. So going from where you are today to becoming a franchisor is a 90 to 120 day process. And during that time period, what are the steps we'll have achieved, the check boxes obtained? Developing your FDD for legal protection, franchise compliance, and best practices, meaning you're positioned the right way when you enter the franchise space and competitive. Your trademarks are protected. They're either registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office or the registration application is pending and we've legally assessed your trademark. We feel confidence in its ability to obtain registration. We've set up your franchising company. We've set up your intellectual property company. We've developed your operations manual. And most important, we have had conversations about franchising, the franchising process, joining franchise communities, and learning franchising. So in this 90 to 120 day process, we're also hyper-focused on helping you learn franchising, getting you focused on your franchise brand story. And the way we've done this is we've built out some great communities. On Facebook, our Franchise Growth Mastermind community, we have weekly live streams there. And our FranxXLaunch website, which is our incubator. For our clients, you get free access to our master classes, including our Building a Franchise Brand Story masterclass, our franchise conferences, and individual mastermind groups that we set up among our clients. The goal is we're not just launching your franchise in 90 to 120 days. We want you to get involved in the franchise community and start the process of learning franchising so you can make smart decisions as we go forward. Next is focus on your launch. So in 120 days, you become a franchisor, or in 90 days, you become a franchisor. You should view years 1 and 2 as a soft launch. Focus on the organic reach of your brand. And it's what I call seasoning your franchise offering, meaning if you had millions of dollars and said, Charles, I want to spend millions of dollars my first year, or hire this franchise marketing company, go solicit leads, or pay for digital ads, my answer is that you're probably going to waste that money. And the reason why is you need to season your franchise offering. So 90 days, we issue your franchise, you become a franchisor. Over that period of time, in the next 6 months, my recommendation and our focus is on you growing organically, selling franchises to individuals that know your brand, qualified individuals that you could help them become a franchisee and to become successful. Also, during this period, developing your franchise brand story, making that brand story deeper, telling your founder's story, maybe engaging in strategic PR, right? Talking about your advantages for your franchisees and the transformation. So within the first year, we view it as a soft launch, seasoning your franchise offering, focusing on the organic reach of your brand. During the second half of the first year, getting involved with broker organizations, having conversations with brokers, and building durable assets, durable brand assets, video, brand story, websites that they're going to create dividends year after year. So 90 days to develop your franchise system. Years 1 and 2 focus on organic growth, selling to super qualified franchisees that know your brand organically. Your first 5, 10 franchisees, as they succeed, as they validate, they're going to create success for the future. In years 3 to 5, well, those are your acceleration and growth years. That's when you start leveraging the success of your franchisees, the success of your franchise system, really drive more broker-generated deals, develop even stronger Item 19 financial performance representations, and really expand your franchise system. So can you win at franchising? Absolutely. You need the right strategies. You need the right mindset. And beginning with the end in mind, that's the starting point.